All right, so welcome back. Picking up from where we left off, we fixed couple of issues that were in the integration code, basically having to do with the difference in the environment where it was previously tested. In other words, it worked on my dev machine. So I'm going to try to run the actual low code demos, which is where we left off. One thing I wanted to point out was that I mentioned we have three integrations for the leading models, but you can integrate um, your own model if you want. If um, if you replace this, let me do a quick check and see how that actually is handled. Okay, so if you replace the ID field with a text a string that points to a piece of code within your developer environment. That can be your custom integration. So maybe you want to point to um, a local model that you install on an instance, or just some other model out there that's not included here. We'll try to put up an example in the forum to demonstrate how you do that and include the actual code, a sample code for how the plugins for these providers, what it looks like and what you need to do. So let's go through this quickly. I'm going to open up all three of the sessions that we previously created. That's the Anthropic one. Let's open up Gemini. All right, so we'll start with OpenAI. I'm going to load the prompt. We'll choose React as the first app. If you take a look here, there is the mechanism I mentioned for passing parameters so that for passing arguments so that the prompt can be properly processed. Here it says Bootstrap and React Bootstrap. We'll just leave that as it is. I could replace that with one of the other UI frameworks and it will do the replacement. But for this, we'll just leave that as it is. Uh, the goal of this is to have the prompt go to the AI, get content back, save that content here, and then have it open up in the low code environment. It's possible that the actual content that gets generated is not appropriate, that it has issues that will prevent it from actually rendering properly, but that's a somewhat secondary issue. Um, we can always take a look at the actual output and see what the issue might be. In terms of integration and um, automation, the goal is to go from issuing a prompt and getting something out into the into the low code environment. I'll click go to execute the prompt. Okay, so in as far as this goes, that's success. We'll see now what actually shows up if there is no issue with the actual output. Okay, so no issue with this particular one. Yeah, I don't know how impressive this is, but that is our app to start. Let's do another one. And you can, yeah, here's a file that it created. I think might be this one. Okay, so yeah, so this is the actual stuff that came out of the API, and then it gets imported in here. This is the version that the tool outputs. So if there was an issue, this is what we'll edit and maybe manually import it, or you can just work directly with the object graph here. If I were to say I want to change that list item that says home, this one, first I could just get to that. See what it looks like. All right, it says home. Home page, show that. All right, so it changed, it updated it, and of course, we can do a few more things. So let's close this out and do another one. We'll do for OpenAI, we'll do the view one. I think we did React, so let's do view. Open up the prompt for that. And this one is going for the view bootstrap library. It might be a good idea when you're doing this in general to clean out the session, because when we issue this prompt, it includes some of this stuff, which becomes part of the context for the next generation, which can be a problem if the model gets confused by other information in here. A few things to note in here: we issued our original prompt. There's a little notation here that tells you that a tool request is included. When it comes back, there's another notation here that tells you that this is a function call. Um, and then this third one with the arrow tells you that it responded to the function call. And also there is a tool used a tool use request in there, which then comes back and makes another function call. Because this response here basically tells it that it saved the content on disk and it's ready to open up for editing, which is a front end activity. So that's a second function call that gets called here. It comes here, it says opening low code composer, provides the path. We don't actually use this path. If you look at the code that I showed, which will be included in the configuration so you can review it, we avoid using this because of the potential of it getting it wrong. The model likes to do things with numbers. I notice it's, when you give it a number like this, it'll either cut it off, it will convert it to an actual date, it will add a letter to it, it'll do all sorts of weird things. So the conclusion here is that when you have information, whether it's as a parameter that needs to be passed to your function, it's just better to retain that as part of your code and use it instead of relying on the model to extract that information from your prompt. Now, there are some information that the model has to extract, so you hope that it does. Like in this first function call, we needed the name of the app component, and I instructed it to provide that. It does do so correctly, uh, but it's best to limit the things that you wanted to extract exactly out of the prompt if you can just retain that information. Just it's less risk for it getting it wrong. So let's try the second example here. Okay, so this is another success. Again, I don't know what the actual output is going to look like if it will succeed, but that's secondary to this, to the task at hand. Okay, so I did come up with something that looks half decent. That's the other page or app. All right, so we'll close this one out as well. Let's move on to Anthropic, and we'll issue the same ones. But for this one, I'm gonna try to replace this. Let's say, tell it to use prime React. Actually, I'll do prime view because there's a reason I don't want to do prime React. Prime view. And all this is saying is that fetch the tags. If you remember earlier, I showed how we have shared resources, and among those, at least for the low code implementation, are tags. The idea is to provide the model with the actual tags to use so it does not make up stuff on its own. So here we're telling it to use, basically this tag library and come up with a page based on that information. So let's try this and see what Anthropic comes up with. Hopefully it's taking this long because it's actually doing something to get it right. All right, success. So that's, again, the bar for success here is that it goes through the process of generation, saving to disk, and opening it up in the composer. Let's see what the actual output is. See if it looks good. Okay, didn't do much, but yeah, there is something there. All right, same deal here. You have a tool use indication, function call. It should always be doing two function calls. The first one is to get the content, save it to disk. The second function call is a front end activity. So basically, it's split between the back end where the content gets saved to disk using the APIs for the environment, and then the front end where the composer gets opened up. All right, let's try for this is view that we did. We can try for React and see what it does. I had a concern about React with Prime because of the toolbar is somehow not included in the bundle. All right. All right, so this is for Anthropic. What I'm gonna do should not have a toolbar to avoid using the toolbar. I should not have a toolbar and should have a sidebar. Okay, let's hope that gets handled properly. Yeah, so this is another success. And as far as the primary task goes, let's see what content it outputs. All right, so that was Prime React. It did put some stuff here. That's supposed to be a menu, I think. Let's see. All right, it has a sidebar, so I did successfully put a sidebar here, and there is something underneath it. I'm guessing that's a card. You obviously have to associate some sort of event handler with this so that it will hide it, and maybe there are settings to control it. But that will be the next step if you're a developer and trying to build the application. All right, let's go to Gemini and see how it holds up. Actually, let's for Gemini, we'll use Beautify. I think it's Beautify as well. All right, let's see for view. All right, another success. Yeah, so didn't do much, but does have a toolbar in there. Let's see. All right, so we'll close that out. Let's do one last one for Gemini. Let's do the React one. And this one, it'll just be Bootstrap React. Let's see what it does. Really? Well, you heard Gemini. Try again. Seems like an odd error. I don't think I've done a whole lot with it. All right, change its mind, letting us move ahead. So let's see what it comes up with. Okay. Again, it's a far cry from what you'll call an app, but the goal is to get the generation and the automation. The prompts themselves are fairly basic. If you want an actual application, you're going to have to build a more substantial prompt. But this, I think, covers the basic process. As you can see, there's all this junk here that it generated. Those are all the apps slash pages that were created. In the next session, we'll start trying to do more sophisticated things. Um, we'll probably expand the prompt, and we are also thinking about ways to apply changes after you have that initial app. Like, what else can you get the models to do for you? What would be the best way to get them to help you out incrementally in an iterative fashion? So stay tuned. Thank you.